My mother died of this disease about 4 years ago, and it took her about 9 years to die. And I thought that the journey was so singularly awful that if I could elucidate it for anyone else, if I could somehow clarify it or ease it, more importantly, I needed to step up to the plate. So it's a small, but I hope an important way of giving something back. My mother shaped me. If I'm anything, certainly in terms of my goodness, it's because of my mother.
Tell me about your mom, Joan. She was a magnificent artist.
She was a wonderful artist, but more importantly, she was the mother of 8 children. She was an iconoclast. She was a maverick. She was probably the best read person I've ever known. She was amusing. She was irreverent. She was smart. She was marvelous. We went all over the world many times. She never missed a shoot. She never missed a play. She never missed a performance. And that's something to say when you've got 7 other children. She was not unfamiliar with great sorrow. She buried 2 of my sisters, which I think does not play a small role in traumatizing the brain in some way. All of this will be discovered. All of this will be unearthed, I hope in our lifetime together, because we're going to find out that trauma and vulnerabilities of that nature affect, I think, the inner workings of our brain. At any rate, she got this disease when she was 70, 71, and then it's just downhill.
What are the great challenges you see for Alzheimer's family caregivers these days?
To understand that they must take care of themselves, to understand how appreciated and important they are. I think they just don't get it, because nobody tells them. I mean, a lot of them are treated like indentured servants, and it's just absolute nonsense. I'd like somebody else to try it. I did and failed. But I watched my mother's caregiver with absolute amazement. And these caregivers are extraordinary. It's a great gift.
You talk about your mother's personal caregiver and how she made even the rituals special. What did you mean by that?
Everything was excellent. Everything was beautiful. It wasn't just an egg. It was an egg with a flower and a cup, on a doily with a linen napkin. It was a crystal glass. It was bubble bath. It was, as I said when I spoke today, Puccini. In the distant recesses of what was left of her brain, my mother responded to that. I think if you add this note of grace, the burden will be lightened, because caregiving is not fun. I mean, the duties are executive. I mean, they're awful. But I think if you say to yourself, I'm going to do this with the hands of an artist, you lift it all up.
And you spoke earlier about stepping in for her for a short period of time.
Yeah.
How did that go?
I spelled her for the last couple of years as regularly as I could, which was not regularly enough. And it was shockingly difficult. I was really appalled at my own weakness. I was shaken by the extent of the duties involved in this service. I mean, it's nothing to it doesn't compare to any other kind of arduous labor that I have ever witnessed. It's not just feeding them and bathing them and dressing them. It's understanding them. It's having a heightened and, in a sense, super sensitivity to them. It's a real knowledge of something beyond oneself is the great caregiver. And most of them, of course, by virtue of what they're doing, are great.
Did you learn ways to communicate with your mom once her Alzheimer's disease started progressing? Different ways of getting into her and talking to her and sharing with her and making her feel better?
Well, of course you do that for as long as you can. A lot of it's instinctive, right? It's the same language we communicated with when I could not speak, when I was a little tiny baby, when she was the mother.
Right.
So all of this is very primitive. It comes back when she is relegated to that position, and then you just go to that very fundamental place. But in the end, when there was absolutely no cognition, I would just stare at her and hold her. I touched her, and I could see the level of isolation, I suppose is the word.
And I agree with that. I think love is the last thing that goes. Touch. People always need to be touched and held and felt. My mom would walk into the room. My grandfather was in pretty much the end states of Alzheimer's, and when he sensed she was in the room, he'd smile.
Mm-hmm.
So these are things we can't ignore. You talked earlier about getting families to work together, brothers and sisters,
Mm-hmm.
not just having one person tag your it, be the caregiver. Do you have any advice on that?
Well, there's a reason why it usually falls to the oldest daughter. She understands this kind of service. She's not afraid of it, and she accepts it as sort of having been the surrogate mother herself. But she will get tired very quickly, and I think the group to appeal to are the men.
Mm-hmm.
This is a group that needs to be educated. There are exceptions, of course, but most men are problem solvers, and they think that they can solve it. They can't. They have to accept it. So there could be some way that the family could get together with the neurologist and have that conversation openly and frankly about being vulnerable, about the possibility of becoming shattered, of a sense of uselessness and certainly a pervasive sense of guilt. Family everybody wonders who's on first and who's at fault and what happened, and if the husband survives the wife, he's usually in a state of absolute devastation. So I would say first make sure the family gets to see the doctor together. And with the doctor, attendant should be a psychologist. So that the family, in a reasonably relaxed environment, can have this open conversation with all the men present and come to some sort of strategic game plan at that meeting. Don't you think that sounds like a
Absolutely
good way of doing it?
It's a professionalism. That's what we talk about. Fearless
Yeah.
caregiver, getting family caregivers to see themselves now as a manager, as a professional. You know, it's the most loving profession because you still have a lot of pain, but you have to, like you say, what strategies to do.
Well, they have to deal with everybody.
Exactly right.
And they have to understand everybody's dynamic. Not only are they dealing with the medical team, the neurologist and the pathologist and the radiologist, whoever, they've got the father, the brothers, the sisters, the aunts, whoever is on the outside network. And they've got their own people, their loved ones too. And their loved ones can be imperiled by this if everybody's not very careful. Because what the caregiver suffers very quickly is deprivation of sleep and usually deprivation of well-being because she's so isolated in that situation. Somebody's got to pick her up at least once or twice a week. Somebody's got to take her out of it and remind her that she is indispensable.
What do you hear from family caregivers as you travel around? We're in Tulsa, obviously we just spoke at the Tulsa Oklahoma Regional Alzheimer's Association conference. But what do you hear as you travel around and talk to family caregivers?
I hear this sense of beleaguerment. They're tired. They don't feel that the community is recognizing the extraordinary value of what they're doing. And I had a woman just now come up to me in tears and say, nobody's said anything like that to me ever. I was just about to give up. Well, the people who should be saying it to her are the people for whom she is working, or her family, whoever it is. She can't never allow the caregiver to be isolated in that situation. She will become quickly depressed, and then you've got two severely depressed or afflicted people, and they can't help each other. If you're asking someone to do this Herculean thing, caregiving to someone who once was a very vibrant human being and is now sort of paralyzed in every way, you have to do everything you can to make sure that the caregiver is served in kind.
As you had said, by 2050 there'll be
100 million worldwide
100 million.
afflicted by this disease.
What's holding us up from finding cures, from finding solutions, from making this a front burner issue?
I don't know. I mean, I think that's what we talked about at breakfast this morning. I think it's fear. It's awfully difficult to confront your mortality in this life. It's one thing to know you're going to, die in a war, die of cancer, die in childbirth. to know that it's going to take you 10 long years to die. And slowly but surely you're going to lose every one of your faculties. And every single thing that made you a human being is untenable for most people. So we have to overcome that fear. It is our duty as a society to now harness our energies and our resources and come to grips with the fact that this must be dealt with now.
You spoke about the clinical trials today. What's holding us up from producing appropriate clinical trials?
Well, you know as well as I do, there's not enough funding. Why isn't there enough funding? For exactly the reasons I just said, and also because it's an ugly disease. It's viewed as an ugly disease. It's not glamorous. It's not sexy. You know, it's not. I'm not going to make enemies by saying things out loud like this, but it's not breast cancer, right? Where zillions of women can get together and sort of celebrate this great cause that can be overcome, and together, you know, it can't be overcome. There will be a death, and it will be a terribly unpleasant death. But it's going to be altogether more unpleasant if it's going to have the dignity it deserves. So we have to get the funding. We have to go to Congress. We have to go to the Hill. We have to go to one another. I travel around like this. You've got your book. You keep doing yours. If we continue, but I like what Bob Thompson said this morning. Let's get a little stirred up now. It's about enough of the indolence and the passive behavior. You know, everybody's very interested in their galas and their luncheons and their balls and where's the money? I need the money for the clinical trials. We need the money to find this cure.
What's the one piece of advice if you just had one thing you can impart to a family caregiver? What would be that one most important piece of advice be?
Whatever else you do, I would say to them, reach down deep and acknowledge that you are extremely special. You are one of the exalted ones. And in your exhaustion and in your occasional moments of despair, and when it looks like nobody else gives a damn, you have to know in a sort of mystical way that you are indeed an exalted.
Thank you, Kate.
I thank you. Take care.